Did you guys know that 1/3 of internet users worldwide are children? Wow, that statistic surprised me. So in today's video, we're gonna start the conversation about screens. I'm gonna be talking about the recommended amount of use of screens based on your child's age. I'm also gonna be sharing the risks and the benefits of screens on your child's developing brain. And then I'm gonna end with how we as parents can maximize our child's screen time so that we make sure that they're learning and that we're promoting optimal brain development. So let's get into it. Hi, hello, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I am Dr. Jasmine from themomspsychologist.com, and you should consider subscribing because I upload videos every Wednesday, and I would love to have you a part of the family. Okay, so subscribe. Okay, y'all, so give this video a thumbs up if your child watches screens on a regular basis. I know I would have to raise my hand on this one because I have two young children, they're 2 and 3, and they watch screens on a regular basis. And so I wanted to create this video to start this dialogue and to help hopefully reduce some shame, some stigma, some guilt around screens, because I know in the parent community there's a lot of shame when it comes to screens, but now more than ever, considering what's going on in the world right now, we are relying on our screens more than ever before. So I want to share some information that I've learned, some things that you can consider so that we're a little bit more intentional and hopefully we don't feel as guilty, because that's not what this video is about, okay? I don't want to increase anybody's stress levels. Okay, so according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, they do not recommend screen time for children under 18 months. They say as long as, with the exception of FaceTime. They're okay with FaceTime and video chatting family members and friends. But when it comes to watching videos and games, they do not recommend screen time for kiddos they really say between 18 months and 24 months, you should consider not using screens. And then for children between the ages of 2 and 5, they say, okay, 1 hour is fine as long as it's high quality educational programs, and ideally the parent is watching the programs with their child. And we're going to talk a little bit about that when I talk about how to maximize our screens, but that's the recommended amount of time. Take it with a grain of salt, adjust it as you see fit. Now, let's talk about some of the benefits of screens, and then I'm going to get into some of the drawbacks of screens based on some research that I have gathered. So some of the benefits of screens is that it increases hand-eye coordination, right? If they're tracing or doing some of the games, right? It also increases their processing speed. If they're playing certain games, they have to process things very quickly, make quick decisions. It also helps with their memory skills if they're playing memory games, and it can increase their literacy skills if they are engaged in high quality programs devoted to enhancing their communication skills. Now, see, that's the important thing to keep in mind, is that if your child is engaging in very high quality educational programs, it does have an impact, a positive impact on their brain development. Golden rule, or the thing that I like to consider when it comes to screens, is instead of focusing on the amount of time that they are on screens, I like to consider, well, what other opportunities have they had for stimulation and growth and learning, right? Is there a good balance in between? So some of the things to keep in mind and to make sure that your child has plenty of is sleep, right? We never want screens to be interfering with sleep. And also play. Y'all know I'm a huge fan of play, and when they're on their screens, they're not playing, okay? So we want to keep in mind, have they had plenty of opportunities, and I'm talking about hours of playtime. Going along with that is physical activity. So for children under 5, they need ample amounts of physical activity. The actual recommended amount is 3 hours a day. Okay, so they need 3 hours a day. You could think about it as an hour and a half in the morning, an hour and a half in the afternoon, but they need plenty of opportunities to run, jump, play around, move their body. It's really good for their physical development and their brain development. And also they need plenty of opportunities to socialize and communicate with real people. So let's kind of think about it as a scale, right? On one end we have our screens, and then on the other hand we have play, we have sleep, we have eating, we have socializing, and we have physical activity. Okay, they need to be balanced, right? So if you are providing your child with all of this stuff, then hopefully that reduces your guilt when it comes to screens, because you know, okay, they have a very stimulating, engaging, and educational environment. Okay. Studies have shown that the blue light that is emitted from screens actually reduces the hormone production of melatonin, which is responsible for helping you fall asleep. So therefore, it's suggested that screens can interfere with your child's sleep cycles and interfere with their quality of sleep. There's also research to suggest that it interferes with their ability to dream, okay? So you really do want to be mindful of screens, especially as we are approaching bedtime. The third drawback of screens is that it's highly addictive. When we are watching screens, our brain is secreting dopamine. Excuse me. Which is a feel-good hormone. It's very addicting. It's actually the same chemical that is secreted when we engage in drugs and alcohol. It's very addictive, right? So consider that. The more screens your child is watching, the more likely they're going to get addicted to it. They want more and more and more of it because it's very pleasurable on a chemical level, right? Our brains literally change their chemistry when we watch screens. So it's something to be mindful of, as well as to have some compassion for your child, knowing it's hard to stop watching screens because they're so pleasurable, they're so fun, they're so enjoyable on a chemical level. The fourth drawback to screens is that research has suggested that it stunts the development of the frontal lobe, which is right here and involved in higher order thinking. A part of the frontal lobe is your ability to communicate and socialize, read social cues, and develop empathy. And researchers are suggesting that watching screens stunts that development, and basically that your child is they run the risk of having limited social skills the more that they watch screens. And the fifth drawback of screens is that it has been shown to increase the stress hormone cortisol, partly, or researchers are thinking it's because it's very stimulating and sometimes overstimulating, right? There's music, there's noises, there's lights flashing, things are changing around, and sometimes that can be actually overstimulating to the little ones and their growing brain, and that it can actually increase their stress levels. The other thing to keep in mind when it comes to screens is that the experience is very different from, let's say, you reading a book with your child, right? When you're reading a book with your child, they have to focus, they have to use their imagination to kind of follow the story and imagine the characters in their mind, versus when they're watching a TV program, I mean, there's lights, there's music, there's things flashing, everything's changing constantly, so that keeps them naturally engaged. They don't have to work hard to focus and concentrate, and they don't have to work hard to use their imagination because all of the images, literally play by play, are being provided for them. And researchers are suggesting it can get in the way of their concentration skills as well as their imagination overall. Okay, so let's get into some quick tips of how we can be intentional about screens and how we can maximize our child's exposure to screens. I think the very first thing, and what I referred to earlier in this video, is to make sure that balance and moderation is the key, right? That they're not on their screens all day long, but they have a stimulating, well-rounded environment. And also, I think quality is really important when we think about screens and the programs, really being selective and mindful also of the quality of programs. Some things to keep in mind when it comes to quality is to make sure that the person that they're watching is very warm, very friendly, very positive and engaging. Also that they repeat themselves over and over and over. This is really important for learning. If you haven't noticed already, your child needs you to repeat things a lot for them to learn it. And that's no different from when they're trying to learn something from screens. They need it repeated over and over, and that can really help with their learning. It's also really beneficial if the person that they are learning from is taking time to pause, allow some silence, so that not only your child can think about what they're learning, but that they can respond and be more interactive to the content that they're learning. If you notice, some programs will pause and ask questions, and then you're like, red, they're like red or whatever, because they're engaging with the content. That's really important to learning, is that your child is engaging. And that leads me to my other tip, is that ideally you are with them interacting with the content. There's a lot of research that suggests that children don't understand the content that they're exposed to when it comes to screens, and they're very literal. There's like a popcorn study that I was reading about where the researchers showed a picture of popcorn on the screen, and then they asked the kids, well, if we shake the TV and turn it upside down, will the popcorn spill out? And a lot of the kids were like, yeah, duh, they will. Very literal, not realizing that it's just a picture on the screen. And so that's really important to keep in mind, is in order to enhance their educational experience when they're watching screens, it's important that you interact with them, help them understand and explain to them what they're learning about, ask questions, have an interaction with them, to really maximize their screen time. So question of the day is, do you struggle with shame and guilt when it comes to screens? And also question number 2 would be, do you limit your child's exposure to screens? Do you struggle with this at all? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear from you guys. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help my channel. And be sure to check out my recent videos. I have ones on sibling conflict, sharing, tantrums, as well as aggressive behaviors. So feel free to check those out, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.